Welcome to the Garage Grit Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Herlock of AA Shop Marketing, and today is a brand new type of episode that we're doing, and I'm very excited to be doing it specifically with Laura Tierney of Shop Loaner because her name and her company continues to come up through various conversations in our episodes of recent past, right? So episode 29, episode 13 are just two of them that her name came up. And I think it's actually came up in 30 again as well. So you got to check out those episodes, but you need to check out this episode if you are trying to figure out what to do about helping your customers get back home while they leave your car with you, or get around town or go to work while they leave the car with you. If you are currently thinking about or currently sort of loaning out cars, or so either way, you need to be listening in on this particular episode because Laura is going to be your guru for answering any of your future questions in regards to loaning cars for independent auto repair shops. And so, Laura Tierney, thank you for joining us today. I'm really glad that you're here with us.
Hey, Brad. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and happy that I'm your first vendor, I guess, on one of your podcasts. It's exciting to get to be the first one, and hopefully I can share a lot of really good information with shop owners out there that are thinking about having loaner cars or even rental cars.
Good. Thank you. And this is going to be a good conversation. I'm looking forward to it. But I want to kind of give a little bit of background on you before we start jumping right into the thought processes. That way people can understand from where you're coming. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about Shop Loaner and just give us a quick history and your role and the direction it's headed.
Okay, so I'm going to backtrack several years. I've been doing this for over a decade. We started out, if we really go back pretty far, we were a computer consulting company. And we were helping just people around town with their, specific computer like programming needs. Can you make us a customized program for this? So we had a couple customers that were in the new car space, and they were struggling to manage this process. And believe it or not, we had a program written in place in these car dealerships in DOS in the 1990s. So if anybody out there doesn't know what DOS is, but you've seen an old movie with the green screen and the blinker cursors.
And the prompts. Yes.
Yep. Tab over, cursor down to get your data fields filled out. That's how it started out. And so they had multiple locations. They were struggling to figure out how they could get this program running and, wanted us to go into all these different locations around town, still doing it by 2010. And we just kind of proposed to them, this doesn't make sense in today's day and age with the internet. Why don't we build a cloud-based solution? And with that understanding, when we build this cloud-based solution, you can subscribe to it. We'll store your data for you instead of you like filling all these forms out, printing them, because they were still storing paper forms, even though the DOS program was allowing them to generate the document. So now we're going to make it cloud-based. We're going to store your data for you and make your life easier. We're going to do this with the understanding, though, that we're going to market it to other people out there in the world. So originally we were only marketing to people in the new car space, and that was great. We kind of made a name for ourselves there. And then I had a few people in the independent repair shop world reach out to me and say, hey, I do this in my repair shop. Could you tell me how your system works? I struggle with this as well. And I honestly was really not clued into the fact how many repair shops had loaner or rental fleets. So I did a few presentations for different people, got on their Facebook Live, things like that, and slowly had, some shop customers. Then something crazy happened and COVID hit, and all these shop owners were trying to stay open and service people's cars and not actually have the customers come to the shop. So an easy way to handle that was to have some loaner vehicles do a virtual exchange, but how do you get the documentation filled out? So, all of a sudden I have shop owners coming to me right and left like, "Oh, you can help us with this. You can give us a virtual process to fill out our forms and get customers on their way. We don't even have to see the customer." And I'm like, "You don't. We'll take care of it for you. I'll show you how it works, and you can get these documents filled out and send your customers on their way. They can bring the car back. You can do the exchange and never see each other." So when COVID
That was
hit,
a thing 5 years
it
ago, right? That was a
yeah, it
thing.
was a thing.
Let's not see each other.
And up to 5 years ago, our biggest market was the new car space. And since COVID, we've really flip-flopped. We have changed so much because I love the repair car, independent repair car space. I love the collision world because OEMs, and it's fine, but OEMs dictate things from above. And so you could do a great job for a car dealership and they might call you the next day and say, "Guess what? I have to cancel your service because of what the OEM says." Or, again, that's just an example. Independent repair shops get to make their own decisions. If you do a good job for them and you deliver what you promised and you do it at a fair price, you usually have a customer for life.
Yeah, and in this
So,
situation, you're going to the next level, right?
yeah,
Because you're actually solving another problem that they're about to have, especially in the collision world. I'm going to be without a car for how long?
yeah.
And this is an opportunity for those collision centers to be not just referring them to the enterprise company down the street, but actually handling it for themselves.
Well, and also during COVID, the other thing that happened to the collision shops that were using the enterprises and the Hertz rent-a-cars was that there was a shortage of rental cars. And so they were last on the list to get the cars because usually when an enterprise is um, giving a car to a collision shop, they're locked in at a rate that's dictated by the insurance company. They have a contract rate or whatever. So because there was a shortage, they were able to rent cars at a much higher premium at airports than they ever, or, for people who are actually out in the world renting cars. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was a huge shortage of rental cars, or you would try to book a trip and get a rental car and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be $75 a day for me to get like a Toyota Corolla or a Kia Soul." I mean, these cars are not $75 a day cars. But back during COVID, that was all happening. Fast forward, we decided when we were doing all this stuff, and mainly the product has all the same functionality as our original product, but we do not have to put these things that the OEM dictates into a shopkeeper's software. So we decided to branch off, and we have Shop Loaner, that's for independent repair shops and collision shops. And then the ARS loaner, we kept that brand in the new car space. And again, if an OEM comes to us and says it needs to do A, B, and C, we can manipulate that world without affecting anything that happens to the independent repair shop world.
Okay. All right. Nice.
So
Gives
we
you
have
more.
two brands, and
Mm-hmm.
really shop owners are getting the best of both worlds because they get all the functionality without having someone dictate. You guys can imagine what OEM dictates to the dealership, but
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm just thinking about this. I mean, in do you want to be thought of as a software company or are you thought of as a service provider? Uh,
I
and
mean, it's both. I mean,
yeah.
our company technically is called Software as a Service, so it's both in there. I think we provide a great service for people, and I personally pride myself on the service and the customer service I give people. That being said, the product that we actually sell is a software product, and it revolves around, data. And
Well, so
so
it matches. It makes it possible for the customer to fill out the form on the website or whatever. But it also is making sure that all of your ducks are in a row, or whatever expression you want to
Yep.
use to make sure that you have everything.
Absolutely.
And so, are the rules different from one state to another?
They can be. So typically, you have a pretty general legal agreement that we can provide for pretty much any state. And what it's going to say is, um, you're driving a car that doesn't belong to you. So here are all the things you're responsible for. Here's all the things you're not allowed to do. And then typically there's always going to be a section on there that shifts liability from the shop or whoever owns the vehicle to that driver. It's going to shift liability to the driver and their insurance first. That's important. And then typically there's a nice long paragraph about things they're responsible to pay for, like parking tickets, tolls, things like that. And then usually we put it on there whether the state requires it or not. The car could be tracked with GPS tracking because nowadays most cars have some type of modem in there, and you might as well just put it on there because technically your car, if it's newer than, I don't know, definitely if it's newer than 2015, there's a modem in that car that can figure out where it is and what's going on with it. So, and that's it. And then we like to try to give it a little customized feel where we let people put their own terms and conditions that are really important to them on the front. And again, those could already be on the back, but again, this is your bold language. And then typically if you have something specific for your state, we add that for you in the front in that language. We put a state specific statute or whatever on there.
Okay. All right. The bottom line is they don't need to be an expert in this arena. They're
Nope.
delegating and adding a higher level of concierge or as a potential paid service to their customers, right? Or a potential service. So let's actually back up a little bit. And I'm just thinking about the auto repair shop owner listening in on this podcast. And maybe they are already loaning a car, or maybe they've thought about loaning out cars. I've seen the entire scope of casual nature. Here's a set of keys to here's some paperwork that I made up myself to anywhere in between, right? Or I don't know, worse yet. So, and we've talked with shops on our podcast who actually are renting cars as a paid service, and we've talked to shop owners who are who set up a separate company to establish a rental company who are still providing a concierge service to their repair shop customers. And so some of these questions need to go to your accountant as far as what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do as far as setting up another company. But how does that work for you? Are you able to kind of advise or direct them when they need to do those types of things?
Well, I'm going to give you a disclaimer right now. I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not an insurance agent. But the biggest thing I would tell you is the reason that customers are setting up a separate LLC is because by titling those vehicles in a separate LLC, and let's call it a rental car company, air quotes, rental car company, you're shifting liability, which we've already talked about with that document, but now you're shifting it even further. So one of the things that you mentioned was, like handing someone the keys. That's a big no-no. You don't want someone driving your personal vehicle. You can do what you want, but if I was advising you, I would tell you, do not let customers drive your personal vehicle. Don't throw anybody the keys. And if you have a document that you're having them filled out, great. But if that document's not complete and accurate, it's really not worth the paper it's written on. So, people have a tendency to skip things and, write a couple things down and then hand them the keys. So, we're trying to manage all of that process and make it simple and easy for you. Setting up the LLC, where that comes in is when we create that document is not really coming from your shop. The title of the business at the top of that document is going to be the name of the LLC. And so now we're creating a contract between and again, I'll call it a rental LLC, and the customer, and that customer is agreeing to the terms and conditions of that LLC. And if anything comes back, we're trying to separate the liability, and we're trying to separate your personal assets, your shop assets, and all of that from these vehicles. Because as Gina mentioned in her podcast, people are going to come after you if something happens, and you want to protect that. And if you can just say, well, the only assets of this rental company are these 5 cars that aren't that great anyway. Some of them, just depends on what you put in your rental fleet. But these 5 cars is a lot less, in my opinion, usually as far as your assets than what you've built into your shop or probably your personal assets.
Yeah. I don't want to get ahead of myself and overthink it, but you need to make sure that your car is in working order before, including calibrations if your car is newer, to make sure that you've got your vehicle in alignment, right, to with the contract. But maybe that's actually written in there. Like, is there any kind of? I'm just like I said, I might be getting ahead of myself on here, but if I'm thinking about having a fleet of cars and all of them are,
And
within the last 3 or 4 years,
yeah,
what if the calibrations are slightly off?
I mean, I personally tell people all the time, one of the best ways for you to get a fleet of loaner cars is probably look in your parking lot at all the cars that you've been taking from customers that they don't want to fix. Sometimes they'll sign a title over to you because you've done a lot of diagnostic work on it and you think, all right, great. Yeah, sign me the title. I won't charge you anything. And then you have these cars sitting there. You know how to fix cars. And I don't think there's any requirement on how new or how old that car has to be. I think it just needs to be safe and clean and good working order because for the most part, shops are not handing these vehicles out for long distance travel. It's for local travel only. It's to get you to your job today or pick your kids up from school. So if it's safe and clean, your car is fine for that. I'm going to just give you one little anecdote. I have a shop owner customer. He has a Toyota Camry that has 300,000 miles on it in his loaner fleet. Yeah, and I'm like, "Oh, wow." And because we kind of talk about these things all the time. And I'm like, "That's pretty incredible." And I said, "How's it run?" He's like, "It runs great, and it is a great marketing tool for me because people come in after they've driven my Toyota Camry that has 300,000 miles on it, and they're like, 'Wow, how does your car run that well?'" And he's like, I just maintain it really well. I do all the work on it myself. If you want your car to run that good, bring it to me and I'll, for all your regular maintenance and you're going to have a car that can run 300,000 miles. So I don't think that there's any kind of stipulation on how new or how old the car can be. I personally just think safe and clean. If you would drive it for your day to day because you needed to get to work that day, I think it's perfectly fine to put a car like that in your loaner, especially for courtesy. Now, if you decide that you want to rent cars, I think that's a little bit of a different story because once someone's paying for something, they might have a little bit higher expectation of the vehicle that they're going to get to drive for that price per day. So if you're really thinking about renting the car and putting a higher price point on it, I would consider having a car that's probably no more than like 5 years old. And again, clean, safe, probably still under 100,000 miles. I think you're going to be fine with that, even if you're renting it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'm just thinking about the average shop owner that's listening in on this podcast. What would you say that the thought process that they should go through to decide whether or not to up their game by offering a loaner vehicle or a courtesy vehicle to their customers?
So there's all kinds of factors that are going to come into play. I think your number one thing that you're going to see shop owners start to consider this is when they can't make the sale on that repair because they have too many customers that can't be inconvenienced to leave their vehicle longer. That is the number one reason people get the loaner cars because you have a customer that brought their car in and they're expecting, their vehicle to be at the shop maximum a couple hours, a half a day, and you just found out that maybe there's a $2,000 or $3,000 repair that needs to happen on that car at some point soon. Um, you have a captive customer right there, and by offering them that loaner car, you could close that sale today. And if you let that customer leave because they need their car that day and they need to pick their kids up from school or whatever the case may be, you could lose that sale where they walk away and, then they decide to take it somewhere else or whatever the case may be. It's just a selling technique because when your customers, um, you make this you give them this huge convenience factor. It's so much easier for a customer to say yes to you. Go ahead and fix it. That would be the number one reason that people should consider just hire ROs. It makes customers happy. It's a great marketing tool. If you have a loaner car and another shop doesn't, They may drive further to get to your shop and drive past 3 or 4 other repair shops just to come to yours because of that factor. And it lets you compete with the new car space. Let's face it, they're the ones that kind of invented this idea of like, oh, we've got this inventory of cars and we're going to put you in one of them so that you'll let me, to
Yeah.
fix all these things on your car and charge you a ton of money.
Right.
You can compete with them.
If your website currently says a dealership alternative and you are not giving loaner vehicles to your customers, then you're not completely the dealership alternative. How about that? So from a marketing perspective, right? I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from. The AA Shop marketing side is that, how are you presenting it? And you actually touched on it there. If you're putting the fact that you have this as an option for your customers up front, then they might drive a little bit further to get to you, instead of go a little bit further to get to somebody else. And back to that dealership alternative, make that message complete by potentially considering this. And if you're trying to figure that out and what your next steps are, keep listening to this episode of the podcast, but by all means, also contact Laura from shoploaner.com, right? Now, if they decide to offer a loaner car, what are some of the non-negotiables that they need to have in place before they hand over the keys?
So for the shop owner, number one, you need to have let's back up. Whether your shop owns the vehicles or you have them in a separate rental LLC, you need to do that so that the vehicles are titled to one of those two companies. Do not have the vehicle titled in your personal name. Okay. And then once you have the vehicle titled in the correct company name, you're going to need insurance on the vehicle. So if it's owned by the shop, you probably want to let your shopkeeper's insurance know that you are going to have loaner cars. And again, it's really not their call if they're titled to an LLC that's a rental car company, etc. And then you're going to get insurance on the cars, in my opinion, as rental or loaner cars. And there are companies out there, and I can push you in the right direction if you need help with that insure vehicles as loaner or rentals, and it's generally a more cost-effective way to do it because the vehicle is being covered by the driver first. So this vehicle is not being driven for your personal use. And that company's understanding is there's someone else driving this car whose insurance is going to cover the vehicle. And we basically fill in the gap after that. Okay, so that's a way to get them insured. So once you have the cars titled and you have the car insured, then you need a legal document filled out every single time. And that legal document is not someone scratching down their name underneath a paragraph on a clipboard with the date next to their name and underneath the last 20 drivers that drove the car. That document, believe it or not, should have all of your vehicle information, and I'm talking VIN, make, model, year, color. All that should be spelled out on the document about your car. And then all the customer's information should be on there. So their name, their address, their driver's license information, and their insurance information. Now, in our system, we also allow you to capture a picture of their driver's license and insurance card. But at the very least, you need to capture that information. And then
I want to jump in real quick.
And then it should spell. Go ahead.
To what you just said, I'm kind of curious from the software side, because I'm going back to the COVID days. Is this something that the shop is actually walking them through, or are they handing them a tablet and say, fill out this form?
Well, you can do it
tablet, right?
You can do it any way you want. I mean, you can go old school on a desktop where you're kind of walking through it with them. You can go on tablet or iPad. And one cool thing we do with our tablet or iPad, you can scan the barcode on someone's driver's license, and that barcode will actually bring in their name, address, and all their driver's license information. But the best way to do it is for you to send the customer a link via text message. And then if they have a smartphone, typically they're going to click that link on their phone and it's going to pop up, hey, we need your information from, Acme Garage in order to get you in a loaner car. And then it's going to ask them to fill all of it out themselves, including taking the picture of their license, the picture of their insurance card. They have to agree to your terms and conditions. They can read the full legal document if they want. I always tell people no one reads that full document. I mean, it's very long and involved. But at the very least, they have to agree to your basic terms and conditions and then sign on the dotted line. So when they do that, the information will be in our system basically waiting for you just to look at it, approve it, and generate the document. So number one, that's the best way to do it, because if you can imagine, you could send that to them days in advance, and you're not going to get somebody who walks in and accidentally forgot their insurance card or their driver's license. Hopefully they did this ahead of time and you're not struggling to get them through the process. So back to that, the minimum they should have, the legal document needs to be completed.
Insurance, legal document. Yep.
Yep. And then honestly, once you get that document that they signed off, now you're good to go. I like the idea of walking out to the car with them with your iPad kind of thing, because you can always check damage. You can do walk around photos. It's pretty high tech. I mean, I know shops take pictures of customer cars when they intake the vehicles now, just to show that, this is the condition of your car when we took it in at the shop. So these are all things that are extras. One of the other extras that some shops like to add on is the ability to have a customer's credit card. And we can offer that as well. And the PCI compliant way to do it, we can set up an online merchant account form in our program. And again, this really is helpful to people who are trying to run it like a small rental car company, because it gives them a way to capture that credit card, and it gives them a payment processor for their other company instead of running everything through the shop and then trying to backtrack their accounting and everything else. So again, it's all about what our customers want. We can give them a really good software just to manage the document and track the cars and things like that, all the way up to our super deluxe is going to be more like, do you want us to do GPS tracking on the cars? Stuff like that.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So you've seen a lot of different things. Please don't mention the names of the shops with this next part, but I'm kind of curious. What are some of the horror stories you were like, what are they doing? Do you have any at your fingertips?
Yeah, I do.
Sorry,
And again, I don't want to scare people from having loaner cars, but again, you want to protect yourself before you do this because you have something to fall back on. So I have one customer. It was on the Atlantic Ocean, further in the south, very warm climate, and gave the customer a car. They took it to the beach to do some fishing, put their bait cooler in the trunk. It tipped over. And then they returned the vehicle. And by the way, this was a fairly new car. So they returned the car.
Not anymore.
Yeah, they returned the car. All seemed fine. I'm sure they cleaned up the bait out of the trunk as best as possible. But then that car sat out on the lot in like 95, 100-degree heat for a couple days. And they went out to get into the car to give it to the next customer. And it smelled like there was a dead body in the trunk. So that was a pretty bad one. And by the way, the only way that they got that smell of the car, they took everything out of the trunk and cleaned it. They did everything. They wound up having to remove the rear seat in the car, I think, and replace it because how it had spilled and gone down in. Yeah, that's a bad one. On the same note, I had a customer in Indiana who lent, I think it was a Chevy Impala, to a customer who decided to take it deer hunting for the day and field dressed a deer and put it in the trunk of the car. So a lot of people change their terms and conditions to say no animals, not no pets, no animals in the car, alive or dead.
I'm just thinking this through. Like it wouldn't even occur to me, right, to dress a deer and then leave it in my rental car. Like
I have
I
one.
don't know. I feel like, you know what? If you are paying for the vehicle, then maybe that's why I think in episode 13, this was actually brought up. The advantage of actually charging them a rental fee was that they took better care of the car.
That is what he said.
Skin
But
in the game.
I want to share one more with you because one thing we have in our program is called the do not rent list. So you can flag somebody in the customer list and change them from one of your active customers to do not rent. And if somebody were to try to give them a rental agreement or a reservation on a car, it's going to pop up a box that says, don't rent this car to this person. And it allows you to put in a reason. So I have one. This is one of my favorite ones I've ever seen. Do not rent vehicle. Client smoked in loaner, cigs and weed, and an empty bottle of Remy Martin was found under the driver's seat.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, in that customer of mine came away from that unscathed. That's, thank God. But yeah, they put him on the do not rent list after that one. Empty bottle of Remy Martin.
Yes,
not full.
That's trouble.
Not full. It was empty. And it was under the driver's seat, not the passenger seat.
Yeah, and the chances that they found an empty bottle on the side of the road and then picked it up because they didn't like littering is slim.
Or that the passenger was drinking it and put it on the driver's side.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, don't rent. All right.
Yeah.
And then, that blocks them from renting, or just a pop-up window that says don't rent. And then obviously
again, we're software companies. So you get a pop-up that tells you not to rent or give them a reservation. And then we do have like a way, even in the settings, that you can make it so that only certain users could edit that setting. So that,
Sure.
You don't want, I love everybody in sales, but some people will do a lot of stuff to make a sale. You don't want someone just to change that status to close a sale. So we also have it in our settings that only you can make it so that only certain people can remove someone from the do not rent list.
In that last story, there is no dollar amount that can overcome that. You don't want that person driving, or that kind of irresponsibility driving your car. All right. So I think some shop owners probably see like this whole loaner thing is a giant thing that they have to organize. It's a big cost. And I'm sure that some of them see it because they've already implemented it as a great tool, as you said, a sales tool, a concierge type approach. What do you think the right way to look at this is? If someone is thinking this through, they're kind of bouncing it back in their mind. They see the huge cost. Like if you were talking with them on the phone, what would you actually ask of them to consider?
Honestly, most of this is going to be explained to I don't know. I feel like a lot of the coaching groups out there back me on this one, where they're telling these shop owners, this is just a huge sales and marketing tool, and you're going to see your bottom line grow exponentially when you have this service to offer. And again, if it's not for you and you're nervous and you'd rather keep your monthly revenue down and you want to just go with a couple bays than fixing cars, that's fine. But I feel like people who are ready to take it to the next level and they want like the 7-figure shop revenue, they're strongly considering this, because it's a game changer for most of the shops that I've talked to in the amount of revenue they bring in every month.
And you talked about going up to the next level. Do they have to start with 5 vehicles, or can they actually, is it worthwhile to start a program that only has 2 vehicles or 1?
I think it's a great idea to start with. 1 is tough because that car's never going to be on your lot, and you're going to have people constantly asking for it, probably waiting on it a lot. And that's fine. If all you have is 1, that's fine. But I usually see people who put 1 in, or they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get another one like right now. So I think 2 to 3 is a great starting point. It's pretty affordable to run a loaner car program with just a couple cars. I think that's fine. I think probably ideally, once you get going, the formula that I've heard and that I think makes sense is 2 cars per bay. That if that bay is doing like high-end repair, that's going to take more than a day. That gives you a vehicle for the customer's car that's actually in the bay, and then it gives you a vehicle to put the next customer in, so that you have a car ready to go in as soon as that vehicle's repaired. So you constantly have a flow of customers going through. So if you're running 3 bays that are doing high-end repair, 6 cars, and then you have a constant flow. And if you think about it this way, you have 6 cars and you have 6 cars that you're repairing, or 3 that are in and 3 that are waiting to go in. Now this takes all kinds of pressure off of your mechanics, off of your service advisors, because they are not sitting there looking at a customer sitting in the waiting room that is so anxious to get their car back. They're not calling 300 times a day to see when they get their car back. If they have a loaner car, they're likely just waiting for you to call them and tell them their car's fixed. It just, beyond being a great selling tool, it gets a customer out of your waiting room, off of the phone, calling you so many times a day, and then it just takes the pressure off of your employees, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you mentioned about increasing the revenue over the 7-figure mark. You mentioned on how this can really increase the ROs. Do you have an example? I'm sorry, I didn't prep you for this, but did you have an example of a shop that really, they jumped into this program and they shared with you how much the revenue went up in, and then I'm going to ask in what time frame?
So I'm
Would
gonna, yeah.
I put in a loaner
No,
program
it's
for my
okay.
shop? Is it
I
going to
don't
be
want
6
to,
months?
I
Is it
don't
going
want
to
to
be
misquote it, but I have a customer that told me basically they had and this is a customer that jumped in full force. They went and they leased a couple vehicles. They run a Euro shop, and again, I personally think Euro shop it's something that you should have because European cars are expensive to repair. And they tend to take a little bit longer to repair sometimes, I think. I don't know. But this guy went and he just leased a couple Volkswagen Taos. He got a nice, affordable lease. And the reason he told me he leased over buying was because, they were under warranty, included maintenance, and he doesn't have to slow down his shop to fix his loaner cars. He liked that idea, and he's like, and I got this for each car for, I don't know, $300 a month, say, per car. He told me he saw revenue jump thousands of dollars on the ROs that he was offering the cars on in the first month. And again, depending on, again, I'm not going to be able to do the math for him. That's the number he gave me. He said my ROs when I was using the loaner cars were, in the thousands versus 500 to 1,000. And he goes consistently. He said he saw a huge jump in revenue.
Yeah, and I'm processing that and thinking about he was leasing the leases. He was renting out. He was providing courtesy vehicles on leased vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because you mentioned earlier, look around in your own parking lot. You might have an opportunity right there to improve upon, and then get it ready for a courtesy vehicle, and use that as a marketing tool. But if you're concerned about tying up your mechanics, you could potentially, as this guy did, lease a vehicle from somewhere else and not have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's very.
And then I think, again, not an accountant, but I think you write that lease off against your bottom line.
Oh, sure.
It basically flip-flop things for him in his shop. And by the way, I'm not going to mention his name. I don't know if you'd want me to mention his name, but last time I saw him,
okay.
He told me that he was moving from his shop, and it was his family shop for years with a couple bays or whatever. He purchased a BMW dealership that had moved. He purchased the property of an old BMW dealership and turned it into his newest location for his. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's growing pretty exponentially. And he did that within 2 years. Went from his mom and pop, shop that his family owned for years to buying an old BMW dealership with all the equipment and everything that was there and moving his operation.
Well, to me, it sounds like these loaner cars can be a real asset to the shop when it's done correctly. To me, it sounds like this goes beyond potentially just a courtesy thing where I'm being nice to the customers. I've seen plenty of shops where they offer shuttle, right? But it's not a formal shuttle. It's just whatever technician is in between jobs to drive that person back to their home.
Yeah.
And I hear that, and I'm also not an insurance person, but that makes me flinch because I don't know how that insurance works as far as if something happened while on that drive. But So I don't know the answer to that. I just feel like this is a cleaner way that also improves your bottom line.
I'd 100% agree with that. And I mean, who wants their employee in a car with a customer? And just in today's day and age, anything anybody could make up or say, or whether it's true or not true, do you want your employee in that situation? I don't think I would.
Yeah. Yeah. I can think of one situation where I thought the shop owner had an interesting approach to it, by the way. The shop owner is the one who is doing all of the courtesy driving for his customers. And as a result, he ends up having in-depth conversations with them and building a trust factor with them.
I saw that on the podcast. Was it him and his wife?
So that was that he does in the one that you're referencing, I believe. It was mostly his wife, but also him. But the one I'm referencing was he was on episode 9, and he was talking about how it's a great way because he's not involved in the day-to-day of the shop as much as he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's got his shop foreman. They're doing what they're doing. He's actually managing the operation. So it's not terribly difficult for him to pull away and just quickly drive somebody home. And so he was saying about how it develops the trust factor. And he said even sometimes though, like they don't know, they just think he's a hired, almost semi-retired guy that's doing the driving.
It's like it's like that show, Undercover Boss.
Right? Yes, yeah. It kind of is. Yeah. And so, most shop owners don't have that much infrastructure and processes in place, but they probably should, to be able to step away at a moment's notice to drive a customer home. Even still, that doesn't solve the other issue, which is they're waiting at home.
Yeah. Now you got to go get them or take their car to them when it's done.
Right. And so this really is a cleaner way to increase revenue. I could tell you
one other tip with that. Some people use, and again, when in our world, when we do a reservation, we have a little thing in there where you can schedule what we call a valet driver. And so now think of it this way: instead of having to go pick them up or drive them back and all this, you can do pickup and delivery service where you schedule the loaner car and talk about a convenience factor. I'm going to come to your work. I'm going to pick up your vehicle. I'm going to give you a loaner. And then at the end of the day, all you need to do is drive by my shop and we can switch cars back. And, or if you can't, at the end of the day, I can send the driver and swap the car back out with you again. I'll just have them come pick it up from your work or wherever when we're finished. I mean, car dealerships do that all the time, too. If you want to talk about competing with a car dealership, that's what the luxury brands are told to do. At all costs, put every single customer in a loaner. And if you can give them pickup and delivery concierge service, that's what their goal is. I mean, again, this is because in the OEM world, the luxury brands, they want to compete with, like your everyday Ford, Honda, whatever. So if you're going to buy a Mercedes or a BMW or a Lexus, they're going to go out of their way. So what if you had a repair shop and you did that? You have a Euro shop, you're going to fix somebody's Mercedes-Benz, and you say, I'll tell you what, I'll come pick your car up at work and I'll leave a loaner there. And at the end of the day, you can either swing by and give it to me, or I can send a driver over to bring you your car back.
And from a marketing perspective, we are seeing that this is making decisions. These are decision factors for people before they actually call on your shop, that they actually want to be able to explore how well they're going to be cared for, how they're going to be treated. Right. It's the yuppification of America. I don't know how else to describe it, but we want that higher end treatment. And
I get that, but
this is an opportunity.
Americans work all the time too. And that might be a problem with living in America, but we work long hours and long days. And if somebody can make your life easier just because you had to pay more, sometimes it's worth it.
Right. And so if you are trying to grow your shop, at all, and you are serious about that, then you need to be serious about looking at how you can better treat and build that trust relationship with the customer. And shoploaners.com might be that step for you. But if you're trying to figure that out, then you just need to reach out to Laura, because she's available to ask questions and answer questions for you. So you're the one asking, she's the one answering.
Yeah.
About this whole space. She's your go-to person, and you need to be paying attention to that. So Laura, where can people reach you?
So the easiest thing to do, I always tell people, is, no pressure, but if you feel like it's a product that you might want to look at, you can go to www.shoploaner.com, and there'll be something on there that says request a demo. It's going to ask you a little bit of information about you. And when I get that from you, I'm going to send you an email back with a link to my calendar, and we can have, typically a 30-minute Zoom call, and I can chat with you. I can show you things on my screen. Email me at ltierney@shoploaner.com, or if you like the phone, you can call me 513-334-1056. Even if it's something where you feel like you just maybe have a couple questions, give me a call, shoot me an email. That's probably the best. You don't need a demo, but if you're just like wondering, how do I do this? What do I set up first, second, third? And then finally, I'm out there on social media, ShopLoaner, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, so you can follow me on those. And I'm doing my best to make a presence, and I'm going to be posting more and more tips and tricks if you follow ShopLoaner on social media.
Good. Nice. All right. So more education is coming. But in the meantime, please, by all means, actually, at any point, if you have questions about how this would look or work for your shop, please, by all means, reach out. This is another episode of the Garage Grit Podcast. Laura, thank you for being here. Our goal at the Garage Grit Podcast is to help as many shops as possible, and it's obviously brought and paid for by AA Shop Marketing, also trying to help as many shops as possible. Thank you again for attending, Laura, and I will talk to everybody soon.